In a previous video we saw that Thorax Hoplites do reasonably well against Thorax Swords, which, if you wanted, you could kind of say that, well, Maximus, you said that swords tend to beat spears because of their higher weapon damage and their higher melee attack. And yes, if we don't take abilities into consideration, that is definitely true, that swords in most cases will beat similarly priced spears. There are some exceptions to the rule, and Thorax Hoplites using phalanx will be able to defeat Thorax Swords. That is because Thorax Swords are so horrible. These chosen swords of Arverni cost 10 more than the Thorax Swords of, in this case, Athens. Just have a look at what happens to the Thorax Swords getting charged by the chosen swords. They don't like that much. They're going to be in formation attack here, so they're going to be able to reduce the amount of chosen swords that are engaging when the charge bonus is activated. They're still going to lose horribly here, but they're going to be able to hold for at least some time. And you don't want to use your Thorax Swords to kill Barbarian mid-tier swords. Those units are only useful for holding, and then using units like Epeius to really do the damage, or to charge the Barbarian swords frontally and then have the Thorax move in. If we turn off formation attack, it's going to go horribly bad for the Thorax Swords, because that is going to increase the amount of units that are fighting, and it's going to inflict the charge bonus of the chosen swords on these Thorax Swords. Now just look at the difference in stats here. You can kind of see which stats are the most important if you look at the stats of these two units. So the chosen swords have less health and the same armor as the Thorax Swords. Their charge bonus is 27 versus 18 for the Thorax Swords. Their melee defense is 62 versus 57, but the weapon damage is 40, and weapon damage is only 34 of the Thorax Swords. The melee attack is 38 for the Thorax Swords, so the Thorax Swords are in an extended engagement better equipped to hit more than the Chosen Swords, but since the Chosen Swords get a 27 bonus to both their melee attack and their weapon damage on the charge, those 30 seconds are 30 deadly seconds for the Thorax Swords. Now in this instance we'll charge in and we'll use the abilities. Both units have the shield wall ability. So charging in, shield wall, instant shield wall. Well synchronized there, but the Thorax Swords, man, they are just dropping so quickly. 69 melee defense, 82 armor, 75 melee defense, 82 armor. So this doesn't really swing the battle in favor of Thorax Swords. Thorax Swords are going to lose to Chosen Swords on the charge, no matter how you do it. If the Chosen Swords were charged by unit of Epeius or unit of citizen cavalry, their charge got interrupted, then the Thorax Swords have a chance. But on the charge, you just do not want to have any of the Barbarian mid-tiers in the game charge your Thorax Swords. It just goes horribly bad in basically all cases. The worst thing you can do with Thorax Swords is to charge them in and have formation attack turned off against the Chosen Swords. If you basically want to have them survive for as long as possible, then formation attack is actually a good idea. But the problem with formation attack is that it's going to absolutely wreck them if they also use shield wall. So it's it's not an easy trade to make. Now we'll see how the Thorax Hoplites stack up. So here we have 65, 87, 69. So we'll see if the Thorax Hoplites are able to kill more Chosen Swords. Remember, Thorax Hoplites are able to kill Chosen Swords, Thorax Swords on the charge if they use their phalanx. So here we have the Thorax Hoplites losing horribly on the charge. They have lower melee attack and weapon damage than even the Thorax Swords. So they have more armor penetration, but it just doesn't really help them because they're getting slaughtered on the charge. So here we're charging in. Formation attack over here, non-formation attack over here, I believe, or was it the other way around? Maybe no. Yeah, non-formation attack here, formation attack here. Here we're activating phalanx right away, and you can see that activating phalanx right away is going to help them a bit in killing the Oathsworn, but the Chosen Swords. But the charge of the Chosen Swords denies the Thorax Hoplites what they need in order to inflict damage with their bonus against infantry and their armor penetration, and that is time. On the charge, the Chosen Swords absolutely slaughter these Hoplites. And overall, it's sort of a weird dynamic, because overall the Chosen Swordsmen do worse against the Thorax Swords than they do against the Thorax Hoplites, but the Thorax Hoplites defeat the Thorax Swords. So against Hellenic factions, Thorax Hoplites are not a bad choice. Against Barbarians, even though they are horrible, Thorax Swords will be able to hold a bit better than Thorax Hoplites, even though they have less armor and such, because they kill more, because of their precursors and so on. So I think Thorax Hoplites definitely have a niche as a Hellenic rush unit, or as a holding unit, when you're up against other Hellenic factions that lack better melee infantry than Thorax Swords. But if you're up against a faction that, even Arverni with their underwhelming Chosen Swords, each of those units are going to get absolutely wrecked on the charge if they're unsupported. Strength and honor.